from Authentic Career and Life Design, and today we're going to be talking about networking. Now, I know some of you out there are going to want to shy away from this and not listen, but I promise by the end of this episode, you'll understand how to network and be your authentic, comfortable self. I'm not going to have you go to events and make a bunch of small talk with people or go to anxiety-inducing meet and greets with strangers. Instead, I'm going to help you learn how to tackle network effectively by moving beyond small talk to unleash the power of genuine connection. So stick around. Hi, welcome back. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about networking, and I've got 4 different areas and a worksheet for you. The first thing we're going to do is define your expectations around networking. Then we're going to help you craft an elevator pitch, and if you don't know what that is, you're going to find out. The next thing is covering where should I network? I don't know where to network. And the last one is navigating career conversations. So once you have a networking meeting set up, what are you going to say? I've also created this bonus worksheet on effectively networking. It'll walk you through what I'm talking about today, and it'll also help you write down your notes so you're prepared. So let's move on to the first step. Hi there, I know I promised you the first step, but first we're going to talk about what networking isn't. So over the years, I have heard the stat so many times, which is that 85% of people find their jobs through networking or the hidden job market. And I always thought to myself, how is that possible? That can't be possible. Well, I found some information and it's not possible. It was based on a study, and if you look at kind of the way the study was done, it's a little suspect. But what networking can do for you is allow you to learn more about a different specific career field. It'll help you learn more about an organization, maybe something that you've thought about, what's it like to work at that organization, or I've had this bad experience I'm trying to get away from and not repeat that again. I want to make sure the organization I'm looking at is a little bit different. Networking can help you with that. And also networking can help you just expand your professional network. And that helps increase not only your job search, but your career success. I found a really great article that I'm going to link in the blog post. But basically it talks about that once you network, your goal for networking cannot be to get a job. So if you know someone and rub elbows or hint, hint, wink, wink, you'll get the job. But what it does mean is that by talking and networking to people, you may get your resume in front of the right person. Or you may get it in front of the HR and hiring people. And all that means is that they may encourage you to apply. It doesn't mean that you'll automatically be hired. So you want to manage your expectations around networking. Just like most things that are important to you, you want to do well. And the best way to do well is by preparing in advance. So the first part of preparing for networking is really figuring out what are your goals. And like I said, I created this networking effectively worksheet that'll help you kind of write down your goals and jot some other notes to make sure that you're making the most of your networking situation. But part of preparing networking is figuring out, why are you networking? So are you networking so that you can learn about a job, learn about a field, learn about an organization, or just expanding your professional network? So think about what those goals are, because that'll help you figure out who are the right people for you to talk to and pull into your network, and where are the places for you to go to start your networking. Once you do that, you've got your goals, you want to create what I call your elevator pitch. It's not just what I call it, it's what everyone calls it. So an elevator pitch is basically, it's called this because let's say you're standing in an elevator and you have about between 30 seconds to 2 minutes where you might be standing with someone to give your summary, and that's where it comes from, the elevator pitch. But basically, it has nothing to do with an elevator. You don't need to be in an elevator for it. Instead, what it is a summary of your qualifications and your background. So something that you have in your back pocket, so that when you meet someone or when you're connecting with people, you can share what that is. So there are 3 components of a good elevator pitch. The first component is, where are you now? The second is, where have you been? And the third is, where are you going? So the first part is where are you now? And what that means is you want to share what you're currently doing, your current situation. So I'm currently a project manager or I'm currently a teacher. For this example, I'm using, I'm currently a curriculum designer. I'm just finishing up my 4th year in this field after having gotten my master's degree, right? So where are you now? What are you currently doing? The next piece is where have you been? And this is when you're going to talk about how your past experiences and skills, where you've been, how you got to here, right? So that might be, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. For my example that I have here, it's before I went back and got my master's degree, I did work in sales, and I find that I really miss that. I've been exploring how my education and design background might fit back into sales, right? So where are you now? Where have you been? That was that. And the next one is where are you going? And this is where you're going to talk about the kind of opportunities you're seeking or what you're looking for, sort of what your ask is. So you might say something like, right now, I'm seeking opportunities in educational technology sales. And I see that you work at a tech company. And could you tell me more about whether or not you have educational technology as part of that? Or do you know anyone who might be helpful for me to talk to? Right? So those are the components of that. The next piece is we're going to cover where to network. So there are kind of 2 different places where you can network, and one is those what I call your warm contacts. So with those people that you already know, I like to have people start with family members. So having your 60-second commercial or your elevator pitch is something you want to try out with your family members, and maybe let them know that you are starting a job search. And the best way to do that, give them your elevator pitch. So start with some family members. Then to expand upon that are friends of your family. So are there people that you've known in your life that you've grown up with, or that you've known, friends of your parents, your neighbors, those kinds of things, friends of family. And the third is family of friends. So when you think about your friends and you know that, someone's uncle or someone's father does this, that's a good place to start and reach out to them. And I'll tell you what that looks like. But then also think about, are you involved in any volunteer or community service activities? That's a great place with warm contacts to start. And then, of course, any sort of community club that you're a part of, a church that you might go to. Are you in any kind of intramural or extracurricular sports? So maybe you are on the weekly pickup basketball game. Places like that. Those are great places to start. The second type of place to start networking are those intentional events. So if networking is not your jam, you may just want to think about 1 or 2 over the next 6 weeks places that you want to go. But these include actual networking events. You can go online and just search for networking events in educational technology sales near me. Or virtually. A lot of events now can be virtual, so info sessions, things like that. Also, if you've graduated from a high school or college that has an alumni network, that's a great place to go and find people who you already have a connection with, you have a shared experience with them, and then talk to them and see if are in fields that you're interested in. Of course, career fairs and career events. Again, go to Google, do a search, and look for career events or career fairs near you. Professional associations are my favorite way to network, and I really owe so much of my career to my involvement and leadership in professional associations. In fact, yesterday I was in Chicago. A beautiful place right in downtown Chicago, where we talked about career readiness. And I was able to see people I hadn't seen in a couple of years, but who I know through the field. And I also met a lot of new people from across the country. And that is a really good place to network and just pick people's brains, learn more about the work they do, the organizations they work at, and expand your professional network. I'm going to do a separate episode on this, but one is networking through LinkedIn. In fact, if you just go onto LinkedIn or you're a member of LinkedIn Learning, you can put in networking using LinkedIn and it'll give you some great information. And then don't discount chambers of commerce. So, everywhere you live, there's going to be a chamber of commerce, and they have great networking and just general topical events. A good place to go and meet new people and start expanding your network. One place I didn't really talk about is the places you go on your regular routine. For example, a coffee shop or a grocery store. So think about this. Have you ever been to a grocery store or standing in line at the post office and saw someone you knew? Maybe an acquaintance, a friend, a coworker, just someone that you saw in a place different from where you usually interact with them. So think about that, hold that in your mind. Now I want you to imagine doing that again. I often run into people in places around town, and that's a great place to network. So I want you to imagine this scenario with me. Think about you're standing in line at the grocery store and you look over at the next aisle and you see someone and you're like, hey, Chris, how have you been? It's been so long since I've seen you. Oh, I'm sure they'll say, I'm good, I'm good. How are you? Wow, I'm doing really great. In fact, I'm just starting a job search. Really, you are? I thought you were really happy at your organization. Well, yeah, I'm happy there, but I just really miss sales. Really? Well, tell me, what kind of roles are you interested in? Dun da da! Cue your elevator pitch, right? I am so happy that you asked. I'm in my fourth year in curriculum design, and I love the educational aspects, but I just really want something more competitive. Being able to manage and kind of increase my own earning power through sales. I really miss that. I don't know if you know, but before I went and got my master's degree in curriculum design, I worked in sales, and I miss it way more than I thought I would. I've kind of been exploring how my education and design background might fit into sales. Right now, that's what I'm seeking. I'm looking and talking to people who know things about educational technology sales. So, is that anything that you know about, or do you know anyone who's in educational technology sales? What if they said yes? What if they said yes? You never know who knows who. If they don't, great. You could say, here's my card. Let's get together. I'd love to meet for coffee and catch up and hear how you're doing, right? So again, having that elevator pitch ready to go is going to help you take advantage of those situations. The last piece of this episode is navigating career conversations. This is the hard part, but again, hopefully you see how you can be authentic and comfortable. You're going to the networking events with your elevator pitch ready. But let's say you do. I ran into Chris, and now we're going to have coffee because Chris texted me and said, you know what, my neighbor does education technology sales. Would you like me to connect you? And now I'm meeting and going to have a conversation with Chris's neighbor, Jill. So now I'm meeting with Jill. What do I do? So here's how you start a career conversation, a networking conversation. You want to begin the conversation with a friendly greeting, of course, and an introduction. And also, just remember, if they're doing you a favor, your treat. So you're buying the coffee, dessert, the lunch, whatever, the drinks, whatever that is. All right. So you want to begin the conversation with a greeting and introduction. You can use your elevator pitch here, unless, of course, they've already heard it. You don't want to give it again. But have some sort of maybe common interest or a recent event or topic that might establish some rapport. The next is listen actively. And, hopefully you already do this, but let me tell you what listening actively looks like. It looks like you're being present. It looks like you're not thinking of what you're going to say next while they're speaking. You're showing genuine interest. You're asking some good follow-up questions. That sounds really interesting. Tell me more about that. What was that like? That sounds really scary, right? So mirroring that, but then also asking follow-up probing questions. Active listening. Then you want to be prepared to share your story. Briefly introduce yourself, how you got to where you are, pieces of your background that you think might be interesting to them. You don't want to make this really personal, deeply personal. Because this is a networking conversation, you want to make sure that you're keeping it and always steering back to that topic for you about the information. Remember the goals that you wrote before? You want to make sure you're meeting those goals. You want to try to find common ground. So listening for common interests, things that they're talking about. You can even take notes there so that you don't want to interrupt them, but come back to that. And you can even say that, oh, that's great. I want to write that down. Make sure we come back to that. Shows active listening, finding common ground. You want to be authentic. You want to be yourself. You want to communicate in an authentic way. You're not trying to sell yourself in this conversation. Instead, you're trying to learn everything you can. So you don't need to impress anyone. You just need to be yourself. You want to also look for opportunities to offer value to them. Maybe they share something with you of an interest or something they're pursuing, and you may think about who in your network that you already know could help them, and make sure you follow up and have a good, decent, reciprocal exchange. And then you want to make sure that you exit gracefully. You don't want to take up too much of their time. If you scheduled a half an hour or 45 minutes, stick to that. When it's time to end the conversation, thank them so much for their time and their insights. Express your appreciation and ask if they'd like to stay in touch or meet again. It's a good way to exit the conversation. And then once the conversation's done, you can go back to your car, go back wherever, and write some notes about what you learned. Maybe you took notes. I'm a handwriting note person, but maybe you want to get some things down, and however you electronically keep those. But you want to make sure that you also follow up with a personalized message, thanking them for their time, reinforcing their connection and what you learned. So those are the best ways to have that career conversation. And you can see none of the things I talked about here had to do with, 5 ways to have an effective conversation and win others over. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing instead is we're learning, we're developing goals, we're getting out there and talking to people, we're having authentic conversations and thanking people so that we can move forward in our next step and expand our network. So simply sharing what your ambitions are and seeking support from others can really open doors for you, and it can really propel your career forward. And remember, this is not about being fake. It's not about putting on a different airs or a facade. Instead, it's about being who you are and making true, genuine connections. But also remember that networking is just one step in this toolbox. So make sure that you stick around. We are on step 4 right now, and we're not even halfway through the 10-step series. So I hope you'll keep listening, keep watching, keep reading, and I look forward to our continued online relationship as we master your job search through authentic career and life design.